this microphone in my hand, which means I can't point with this finger, but we'll do it with this one instead. I thought that was quite funny. I want to continue talking about following Jesus. I believe that to follow Jesus means that we're not going to walk in darkness, that we'll have the light of life. I believe that following Jesus means that we will have something really that is the foundation of our lives, that makes the difference. I don't know how people live without Christ in their lives. I don't know how they do it. But Jesus said this, whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life.
Amen. Yeah.
And so I want to continue that thought today. And today I want to talk to you about fishing for people. Fishing for people. So would you stand with me as we honour the scriptures and I read to you. So Mark chapter 1 and verse 16. As Jesus walked beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and his brother Andrew casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. Come, follow me, said Jesus, and I will send you out to fish for people. At once they left their nets and followed him. And when he had gone a little further, he saw James, the son of Zebedee, and his brother John in a boat, preparing their nets. Without delay he called them, and they left their father Zebedee in the boat with the hired men, and they followed him. Amen.
Amen.
Please be seated. How do you communicate with a fish? You throw it a line.
Hey.
Thank you for laughing, Rachel. I appreciate it.
Love a pun.
You know, Jesus taught people to communicate with other people about himself. He wanted to make them fishers of men. Now, the great Jewish historian Josephus tells us that when he was the governor of Judea, there would be at any given time on the Lake of Galilee around 330 fishing vessels. Now the lake itself is probably only about 12 miles long and about 6 miles across at the widest part. And so really it was a very busy lake, and there were always fishermen on the side of the lake mending nets. There was a real activity going on. Some of the boats would carry 4 people, some would carry 6, some 8, it all depended. So there could have been really literally thousands of people around the Lake of Galilee at the time that Jesus was walking by. And also we notice that it's mentioned here that James and John were mending nets, but also that just a little way out, Andrew and Simon were out fishing as well. They were fishing. And they'd got hired men with them as well, which tells you that they were employers. And so they actually did have a bit of brass to them. It was also noticed there that the father was involved, so it was probably likely it was all a family business. We also know from the scriptures that actually James and John and Andrew and Peter were in business together, fishing together. Now, for the common Jew then, it was unlikely that they would have more than one meal a week would be meat. The rest of the week, the staple diet was fish. And so there was always the demand for fresh fish. And always somebody willing to purchase it. Now, of all the people on the lake, Jesus chooses these guys. Now, that's what I call a special choice. when you know how many were around. Now, I need to let you know also that they'd met Jesus long before this occasion. This wasn't just the first time he met them. You know, he's walking along the seashore and suddenly goes, "Beep." Oh, there's Andrew and Simon, by word of knowledge, and decides to call them. It wasn't like that. He knew who these guys were. In fact, these guys were disciples of John the Baptist. So he would know the connection there. The other connection, which is very interesting as well, is that James and John, their mother, was Mary's sister. So there's family connections going on. They knew each other. It wasn't that chance happening that we sometimes can read in here. So whenever you read about this story, I want you to know that Jesus came choosing these men because he thought about it way before and prayed about it way before. I want to tell you something. God thought about you and chose you way before you actually got called.
Wow. Yeah.
He was working in the background for you. You didn't realise it because you're as thick as me. But he was working behind the scenes because he wanted to come to a point where he would call you to be his disciple. Of all the people in the world, he picked you. I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have picked me. I would have put me really like the bottom of the list. He said, no hope of that guy. But he picked me and chose me, and he chose you and picked you to do something. To do something for a purpose. God chose you for a purpose. Well, that's right, yes, so that I can serve behind the counter. No, not that one. Oh, that's right, so that I can work on a building site. No, not that one. They're just things that you do. God chose you for a specific purpose. So you might be a school teacher, but there's a bigger purpose over your life than being a school teacher. Yeah. He may have called you to be the best dad in the world, and I hope you are. But there's a bigger call on your life than that, and that's big. I fear that we've put something on the back burner when actually it should be dominant in our thinking and our thought patterns. God forgive me that I have put something lower down in my priorities than I should have. I should have had something way up in my thinking, way up in my priorities, way up in my priorities during my daily life. Do you know what? It's all right being a pastor if you want to be a nut job, you know. It's all right, but you can get as busy as anybody else and forget the priority.
That's true.
You can get busy. You're all busy, and you know, you've only got to look at your family, haven't you, to find out you can get busy. Oh, yeah. I felt that sort of moment come past because nobody's busy with families. But we're busy. In fact, the day takes over, doesn't it? The day takes over. The day determines what I do. And it grabs me quick. Oh, that we were like King David and said, I will wake up the dawn. I will worship the Lord. I will take hold of the day.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
I will wake it up. It's not going to wake me up. I'm going to wake it up. And I'm going to take charge of the day ahead. And it's going to start with worship to God. now await the dawn. Could you imagine that? First thing in the morning. Rachel, what are you doing? Says Johnny, who has got the harp and the flute out, and he's awakening the dawn.
Wow.
Johnny yawns. Can't you go back to bed? No, she's taken hold of the day ahead. Instead of it taking hold of my day. And it does take hold of my day. The way that Mark has written this story is in a way that tells you that every person that is called by Jesus is called for the same reason he called the very first two people ever to follow him. And this is it. God has called you and me to be fishers of people. I put it on the back burner. My life overtook, and I forgot about that. Jesus has called us primarily and foremost to catch fish in the shape of people. There is no getting away from it. It is our call to follow Jesus. Now these guys, they left their nets. They left their... I'm not sure that God's calling all of us to leave your nets. Because, you've got to pay for your food on the table. I understand that. But these guys actually left everything and took to the road with Jesus. They had a purse, and it was a communal purse, and we know that Judas Iscariot used to nick the money out of it on a regular basis. Can you believe it? And they knew it as well. Jesus knew it. But they left their nets and they entered into a lifestyle. This text is telling us that they started to get more attached to Jesus than they were to the past. And so we have got to get more attached to Jesus and his thinking into following him so that we are not filled with darkness, but we have the light of life. Hallelujah!
Praise God.
Now, if you've signed up to be a disciple of Jesus, you've signed up to be a fisher of men. And so am I. I said it before, God forgive me, that I've made so many other things priority. We know that we've got to get on with life, and we've got to do life, and we've got to get up in the morning, we've got to get ready for work, we've got to do all these kind of things. I know that. But there's something I think that is overriding in it. Some people get up in the morning and start praying, Lord, who do you want me to talk to today? Lord, I'd like to talk to somebody, and he guides them to somebody. Do you know what? I'm not one of them kind of people. But I only need to wake my head up to say, hang on, they're looking at me in the face all the time. I don't need to go looking over there. I don't, forgive me, but sometimes I don't even need the Lord to tell me where to go because they're looking at me. Didn't he say, look, the fields are white to harvest. Can't you see them coming towards you? They are coming towards us on a daily basis. Not mermaids. People are coming towards us on a daily basis. There's a lovely old proverb, and Jesus, who is wisdom himself, they would know this proverb. And let me read it to you. It's familiar. The fruit of the righteous is the tree of life, and he who wins souls is wise. So how do you win souls? You need wisdom. At first you can think, how do these two verses come together? It doesn't really make sense on how they come together. But actually, it does. The English doesn't really translate it very well, because it doesn't translate a concept from the Hebrew concept that is being said here. You know, every person who's ever lived produces something. Some produce the ability to break up relationships. Some produce the ability to make war. The Bible says that a righteous person will do something that will produce something that is life-giving. Life-giving. I want to be a life-giving producer, don't you? I don't want to be the person that breaks things up and brings death to things. I want my life, and you want your life, to mean something to somebody else, that it becomes life-giving. And how do you do that life-giving? By winning them. By winning them. To who? You? Dear Lord, help us. I don't need anybody winning to me. They'll live the like me that I did. Am I the only one? You know? We are shot through and through. We are weak by nature. And if you're strong, come and pray for me afterwards. I'd appreciate that. I find myself getting, in fact, the more I follow Christ, the weaker I feel in myself. And the more I need God. And so, but a wise person will produce something that's life-giving, and they will win souls. Win souls. I like that, what is a soul? A soul is a person. Emotions, will, mind, spirit, even is in that whole concept of winning the whole person. I've come across a lot of Christians that actually put people off. Don't win them. You know? It's not a winning comment. Did you know you're going to hell? As your opening comment. It's not a winner, is it? Yeah, and it might be better to start with, did you know God loves you?
Yeah, come on.
I think that's an opener, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good.
Really. You know. But he who wins souls is wise. And each person is so complex. Every individual is so different. You are so different than the person sat next to you. The way you think, the way you put things together, the things that trigger, all the triggers that are in you are so different to anybody else. And every soul is absolutely unique and different. And that's why you need wisdom. When you begin a conversation to win them, you need wisdom. Thankfully, the Bible tells us that if you ask for wisdom, he'll give it to you. That's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Lord, would you give me... Lord, I'd love to talk to this guy here about you. Give me a wisdom. Where do I go with this? You know? And so just see what comes out their mouth first, because that might help. To give you a little hook. Wisdom. You know, the first time Jesus sent the people out, his disciples out, he said this, "Behold, I send you forth as sheep among wolves. Be as wise as serpents, harmless as doves." We've got to be wise when we go out and when we share our faith with somebody. Did you know that it's time to go fishing? I'm not talking about the lake. I'm talking about fishing for men. Fishing for men. I need to remove people when I start a conversation about Jesus.
Yeah.
Do you know that's the great thing about the Alpha course? Many of us actually really struggle with what we're going to, how do I have a conversation with this person about Jesus? I'm really scared about that. Can I just say, Alpha course makes it easy. Because all you've got to do is bring them for a meal. And a conversation. Hey, do you want to come? And then somebody else will do the rest for you. That's good, isn't it? That's why Alpha course is really helpful. All you need to do is, Lord, when I ask this person, would you get them to say yes? Would you get them to say yes for me, Lord? I think he could do that. I think he can, And if they just say no, walk off. Get somebody else. It might not be their time yet. But let's do something about this. And I've got to ask us, are we discerning the times? Are we aware of what's going on? That actually it matters if somebody is converted to Christ. It matters. Not only for their mental health, but for their eternal soul. It matters whether somebody knows Jesus or not. The best thing that ever happened to me was meeting Jesus. The best thing ever. Nothing supersedes it. Nothing supersedes that. It was the thing I needed. And so by meeting him, I found that he would turn my world around and make me whole. I did just mention there about the woman at the well. Jesus, he sits at a well with a woman, and he sees that she's dropping a bucket into the well, and he says to her, if you'd have asked me, I could have given you living water. And off the conversation goes. And he used the situation and the circumstance that was happening, and he turned it around. The next thing we know is that Jesus then gets some words of knowledge, and he knows that the woman isn't with the man she married. She's had 5 blokes. She's got a problem. And her problem is men. We've got soul thirst, and she had a soul thirst. But you know what? After she had this conversation, this introduction with Jesus, she goes running into the town and says, come, let me show you a man that told me everything about myself. Surely this is the Messiah. And guess what? The whole town turned out. She must have been an amazing gossip. Some people have got an art in gossiping, haven't they? I'm talking good gossip here. We don't need any bad gossip. In fact, I have actually I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted, but I have considered whether or not we have a gossip page on the website. That just so that we can say what the latest gossip is and say whether it's true or not. That might be useful, But anyway, now comes this town. The whole town comes out because one woman has been in to catch some fish. And then she's coming out, and then Jesus says to the disciples, look, the fields are white to harvest. We're going to have a harvest here. We're going to have a harvest time. And I'm convinced that we're in that time now where God is saying to each one of us, and this is the key, isn't it? Because our eyes are not where they should be. My eyes are on me. And it's so hard to see when my eyes are on me. And my eyes are on my micro world, my little bit. And Jesus says this, lift up your eyes and see the fields are white to harvest. Can I encourage us this week, as I'm drawing to a close now, that if you haven't managed to grab hold of anybody for Alpha, have a go this week. You know, we've got people in our sights. We want them to come. And we're praying, Lord, give us that opportunity. Lord, let them say yes. Lord, you know, if they've said yes, Lord, make sure they come, will you? Mm-hmm. That's the other one, isn't it? Mm-hmm. People are fickle. And so, can I encourage each one of us to bear this in mind, that our primary call as a disciple of Jesus is to catch men and women for him.
Come on.
That they become followers of Christ. And if they do, they will not walk in darkness, but have the light of life. May God bless us all this week as we endeavour to be fishing for people. Amen?
Amen.
Amen.